Hello everybody and welcome to this video all about why you might be struggling to scale your business. So we work with a number of different size of companies. We work with everybody through our sort of consultant size, and we sometimes work with sort of listed companies, really, really big companies. And there is often a point when you're working in a business, especially if you're building your own business, where you get to that point where you feel like you could be doing more. We could be doing three more of these contracts a month, or I could actually be talking to more people if there were two of me. And there's a lot of times when that comes up where you think, I want to do that, but I can't do it, or I don't know how to do it. So in today's video, we're going to be sharing a couple of tips on how to make that happen for your business. My name is Simon Batchelar. I'm a marketing strategy consultant from Pallant Studio, and we work with engineering, manufacturing, and IT companies to help them get in touch with new clients that don't already know them, to scale their leads, and to fill their pipeline. I'm joined today by Paul Everington. So, Paul, do you want to give us a quick intro?
Hi, yeah, Paul Everington from Everwell Associates. We support companies in those same sort of areas as you, engineering, manufacturing, and any of the small or medium-sized companies to improve their efficiency, to look at their processes and see what they can do more effectively and ultimately more profitably, but also particularly with the business leader, as you mentioned, who is potentially a bit isolated and focusing perhaps too much in the business rather than on the business.
So I think there's a common point that businesses get to, and it's sort of what I alluded to just now. It's that point where you think you could be doing more, but you're not quite sure how to. And often it is the fact that if you want to scale your business, you're going to need to change the way you run your business. And that is quite a daunting prospect. There's that feeling of needing to maybe let go of control. There's maybe that, well, we're going to have to potentially let someone else take care and manage this. And as the business owner, that can often feel quite risky. It can feel like, you don't quite know how you're going to control it, how you're going to measure it, all of these different things.
Yeah.
So a book that I was recommended by a business coach years and years ago, I think opens the door to a lot of this thinking. And it helped me and my business partner, Ben, work out that actually the way we wanted to scale our business wasn't necessarily the way that everybody else was looking at scaling their business. So we changed our whole business model. We changed the way we ran our business. We took some risk, but we also decided that some of the risk that we could take, we didn't want to take. So I think that's an important step to get out early doors, is that you don't just have to scale your business for scaling its sake. You don't have to grow it because everybody else is growing their business. But it's important to work out where you're leaving money on the table. Like, where are you just letting your business not scale and you're missing easy opportunities? And where might you be actually exposing yourself to way too much risk and something that you really need to focus on? So the book that I was recommended is this. It's The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. So this book was written a long time ago in terms of the internet age, not very long ago in terms of book age, but it's a really fascinating book. Michael Gerber is a very well respected business coach. He works with lots of different businesses, thousands probably over the years. And this book is a kind of story about him working with a small business owner who is looking to scale her business. And he essentially goes through a lot of the different things that you can do to scale your business. And he presents it in just the most easy to understand and accessible way. He's actually talking about some very technical things, but you wouldn't know it from reading the book. It's only afterwards you're like, oh, okay, I can see where he's getting at. So, Paul, you have also read this book. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about some of the things that you learned from this book and how they might be applied by some of our viewers?
Yeah, I mean, thanks very much for recommending it to me, Simon. It's a really, really interesting book. It was actually written in 1986 originally. And you think, well, what can they teach us today? But actually, it speaks to the very fundamental principles about running a business. It's about, the entrepreneur starts up the business. They've got a great idea, a technical design or a service or whatever, and they get very involved in that. And they're brilliant at it. Of course they are. They've set up the business. Then as they start to expand, they employ one additional person, two, three. It becomes less easy to manage that. And they find they're now looking at regulatory compliance or a payroll run or VAT returns, these sort of things, which is not their main interest, but they've got to do it. It then becomes the question, as you mentioned, about how to delegate, because you're the best person to do the job, aren't you? Well, of course you are, because you're doing it the best way you can. You wouldn't do it any other way. So if you bring someone else in, how can you make sure they'll do it the best way that you would do it? Well, you sort that out by writing a set of processes. That sounds, really boring, but that's what the essence of the book is. It says just write it down. Pass on the knowledge that you have got so that you can get them to do exactly what you have suggested. But it then has another knock-on effect, is that they will then bring their thinking to it. They've got different thinking to you. They may well improve what you're doing, which is only a good thing. But they can't possibly do that if you don't do that original delegation. So you do have to trust the person, but you trust them by a set of principles that you have written down. And that's what Michael Gerber wrote in 1986. Interestingly, in 1987, they launched ISO 9001. And my first instinct when I read the book was to say, oh my goodness, that's it. That is how I would implement what Michael Gerber has said. Adding in a little bit more about working with people, like the Investors in People sort of initiatives and so on. But those two together basically encapsulates a guidebook for how to run your business, as Michael Gerber has suggested.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, because especially if you've grown your business by giving people very specific set tasks to do and then repeating that process for every different role in the company, which is often how businesses get to where they are now, it is then a case of, if you're going to scale or you want to grow, you really are going to need to let someone manage a whole department or a whole team. And it is, how do you let go but maintain the right level of control, the appropriate level of control that makes you not stay up at night worrying about it, but also gives the autonomy, the confidence, and let's say the innovation to the team to let them do the best that they can do it, to take what you've done, to evolve it and grow it for the benefit of the business. And I think this book encapsulates that really well, because it isn't just, well, you need to write this document and that document number should be this and the document should have the It's not prescriptive, but it's inspiring in the sense that he sets up a real tangible business problem that you can encompass in your business. And he then explains how someone fixed it in a real world way, the discussions they had, the points that they wanted to avoid, the things they wanted to gain. In a story, like every chapter is a different story. And as you've correctly identified, Paul, he's actually explaining, well, that's an HR process. What he's described there. And then the next chapter is actually, well, that's just an accounting process.
What he's done is he's explained to them through paper and very often with hands-on how to do the process. Which then gives him more time to sit back and work, as I say, on the business, which means that he can sort of dip in and out and go, okay, so how's that thing going? Have you managed to improve that? You were processing 10 of these this week. You're now processing 60. Oh my goodness, what a tremendous improvement. Gives you a chance to engage with the member of staff, pat them on the back and encourage them in various ways. Meanwhile, you've spent less time doing that task, so you can focus on the more fun stuff in life, whether it's blue sky thinking on your business or playing golf, whichever it is, you've given yourself more time.
Yeah, and I think there is that sort of fear that if you let go, you lose control. And I think what he's saying is, well, actually, you do lose direct day-to-day control potentially of that thing, but do you actually need that for it to work? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no, because it's happening without anything being decided, written down, or agreed. So often when you scale, these people are often doing half the stuff that you want them to be doing anyway. They're just doing it in their own way, whether you like it or not. So you may as well be involved in that process. So I think, firstly, I would recommend that everyone, either buy a copy or, as you did, Paul, get the Audible version, the audiobook version, and listen to it.
What's really important for a business is to remember that while some businesses need the official certification of ISO 9001 to bid on bigger tenders and so on, and we help, many of our clients do that, actually just putting in the basic principles without going for the formal certification is the really important thing. And that's what Gerber sort of encapsulates in his book. Is start now, write a principle, write a process on doing something. You won't be able to do all of them all at the same time, but you've got a new member of staff, perhaps who's coming in doing marketing or whatever it is, write that process. And then gradually write another process and write some other things so you can pass on that knowledge and delegate more widely. And that is what helps the business to grow. Don't feel you need to get this full, highly expensive certification. just start now writing some basic processes.
And I think it's that thing, if you start as you bring new people in, you can make it part of their job to make notes on that process, to work on that process and to review it with you. Because if you make it part of someone's job that every month or quarter, depending on the process, that you're going to have a meeting with them to review that process so you can improve it, then you will improve all of the processes in your business. Because it might be that the first improvement they have is that the person they work alongside doesn't have a process.
Yes.
And therefore you're like, great, well, let's get them a process then. Let's help them work.
Yeah.
And as you say, you start with one, probably the next new hire is the easiest one, or it's maybe the department that you like, right, we need to really pay some attention over here. Start with that one, then do the next one, then do the next one, and build it over time. And it will very quickly become part of your business. So if people want to get in touch with you, Paul, about making that process happen, or they want to discuss some assistance, or maybe you can help them review it, or they just want to chat more about processes in general, how can people get in touch with you?
They can get hold of me on LinkedIn, Paul Everington, or visit our website, everwell.associates.
And if you want to get in touch with me about anything we've spoken about in this video, you can find me on LinkedIn, Simon Batchelar, or you can visit our website, pallant.studio. Thanks very much, everybody, for listening and watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks so much. See you again.